What is the one thread that connects every single human being, weaving through the fabric of every life? No matter our age, culture, or background, it's not wealth, power, or even love, it's suffering. Yet, in a world that idolizes happiness and shuns discomfort, we often see suffering as something to avoid at all costs, an unwelcome guest in our lives. But what if suffering isn't our enemy? What if it's the key that unlocks the door to true freedom? The Buddha's first noble truth is a revelation that speaks to the heart of our existence. It teaches us that dukkha, a term encompassing suffering, dissatisfaction, and impermanence, is not just an inescapable part of life, it's the very doorway to awakening. Far from a message of despair, it's a call to embrace life fully, to understand our struggles as a path to profound transformation. Picture yourself climbing a towering mountain. The trail is rugged. Your legs are trembling, and every step forward feels heavier than the last. The summit seems impossibly distant, hidden behind clouds of exhaustion and doubt. You want to stop, to turn back, to avoid the struggle. But then, you pause to catch your breath. And for the first time, you look around. You notice the whisper of the wind, the scent of wildflowers, the breathtaking expanse of the valley below. And suddenly, you realize that each painful step is not a burden, it's part of the journey. Each ache, each moment of doubt, is bringing you closer to the summit, where the view will be unlike anything you've ever seen. This is the truth of dukkha. Life's challenges are not obstacles to overcome, they're invitations to awaken. They are the very steps that lead us toward wisdom, peace, and liberation. In a world obsessed with escaping discomfort, the Buddha's first noble truth offers a radical perspective. Suffering is not something to run from or suppress. It's something to understand, to embrace, and to transform. By acknowledging dukkha, we stop fighting against life and begin to flow with it. This teaching is not about resignation. It's about empowerment. When we stop fearing suffering, we start uncovering its lessons. It shows us the impermanence of joy and pain alike, revealing that our clinging to fleeting pleasures is the source of our dissatisfaction. In this way, dukkha becomes our greatest teacher, showing us the path to lasting peace. As you watch this video, I invite you to reflect on your own life. What struggles have shaped you? What lessons might your suffering hold? The Buddha reminds us that we're not alone in our challenges. Suffering connects us all, reminding us of our shared humanity and the possibility of transformation. The mountain may be steep, but every step brings you closer to the summit. And from that peak, the view is boundless. The nature of suffering. The first noble truth, seeing life clearly. What if everything we strive for, success, recognition, comfort, isn't the source of happiness we believe it to be? The Buddha's first noble truth teaches that suffering, or dukkha, is an inescapable part of life. But this isn't a message of despair, it's one of hope. By understanding suffering, we take the first step toward freedom. Dukkha goes beyond physical or emotional pain, it includes dissatisfaction, impermanence, and the restlessness of life itself. Even moments of joy carry the seed of unease because nothing lasts. To awaken, we must see suffering as it truly is. 3 dimensions of suffering. The Buddha described dukkha in 3 forms. Ordinary suffering, dukkha the pain of loss, heartbreak, or physical discomfort. Suffering from impermanence, viparinama dukkha the fleeting nature of joy. Whether it's a sunset or an achievement, leaves us longing for more. Suffering from conditioned existence, sankhara dukkha the deeper restlessness of life's ever-changing nature. Each form invites us to face life's reality. Not as we wish it to be, but as it is. This clarity is the first step toward awakening. A story, Steve Jobs and the Search for Fulfillment. Steve Jobs, a symbol of success, spent his life chasing perfection. Despite his achievements, Jobs wrestled with dissatisfaction, reflecting the truth of dukkha, confronting his mortality during his battle with cancer. He recognized the impermanence of life and the futility of clinging to accomplishments. His journey mirrors the Buddha's teaching. Understanding suffering reveals what truly matters. Why acknowledging suffering is noble. At first, the first noble truth might seem bleak. But the Buddha called it noble because it empowers us to break free from illusions. By acknowledging suffering, we stop blaming ourselves or others and embrace compassion. Understanding dukkha connects us to our shared humanity, reminding us that life's challenges are not personal failures but universal experiences. As the Buddha said, just as a mighty mountain presses against all, so aging and death press against all living beings. Recognizing suffering is not about despair but courage, standing at the mountain's base, ready to climb. Mindfulness, observing suffering without judgment. To work with suffering, the Buddha offered mindfulness, a way to observe life's challenges with clarity. Breath awareness, anchor yourself in the breath to create space from emotions. Body scanning, notice physical sensations without judgment. Thought observation, watch your thoughts come and go, like clouds passing in the sky. Through mindfulness, we see suffering as temporary and let go of clinging to fleeting joys or fears. The first step toward freedom. The Buddha's teaching on dukkha is not about resignation, it's about transformation. Suffering becomes a teacher, showing us life's impermanence and interconnection. Steve Jobs once said, "Remembering you are going to die is the best way to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There's no reason not to follow your heart." The Buddha echoes this wisdom, life's fragility is its beauty. Suffering is not the end, it's the beginning of awakening. Why do we suffer? The causes of dukkha. The first noble truth teaches us to acknowledge suffering. The second noble truth goes deeper, asking, why do we suffer? The Buddha's answer is clear: suffering arises from craving, tanha, and ignorance, avijja. These forces keep us chasing fleeting pleasures and avoiding uncomfortable truths, trapping us in dissatisfaction. The root causes of suffering. The Buddha identified 3 forms of craving that fuel our restlessness. Craving for sensual pleasures, the endless pursuit of physical gratification, food. Possessions. Relationships that never truly satisfies. Craving for existence, the desire to achieve, to prove our worth, and to leave a legacy. Tying our identity to accomplishments. Craving for non-existence, the urge to escape pain or life's difficulties through avoidance or denial. At the core of craving lies ignorance, our inability to see the impermanence of all things. This ignorance drives us to cling to illusions and resist the reality of change. A story, Elon Musk and the Weight of Success. Elon Musk, synonymous with innovation, exemplifies the craving for existence. Despite his groundbreaking achievements, Musk admits to relentless pressure and dissatisfaction, describing his work as staring into the abyss while chewing glass. His story illustrates the Buddha's teaching: craving, no matter how productive, leads to a cycle of striving and unease. Modern manifestations of craving. Craving and ignorance are everywhere in modern life. Social media, chasing likes and validation. We curate our lives but often feel emptier. Consumerism, advertisements convince us that happiness lies in the next purchase. Yet satisfaction fades quickly. The pressure to achieve, we tie our self-worth to milestones, turning success into an endless race. These forces magnify the cravings the Buddha described, pulling us further from inner peace. Breaking free, Leo Tolstoy's awakening. Leo Tolstoy, despite fame and wealth, faced existential despair, questioning the value of his achievements. His turning point came when he let go of his craving for recognition and embraced a simpler, intentional life. His journey reminds us that freedom comes not from clinging but from letting go. A new perspective on craving. The Buddha's insight doesn't discourage joy or ambition but asks us to examine our motivations. Are we seeking to fill a void? Are we resisting life's truths out of fear? By understanding craving, we can loosen its grip and reclaim peace. Mindfulness as a remedy. Recognize craving, pause and ask, is this desire about true need or fleeting satisfaction? Reflect on impermanence, recognize that everything you cling to, relationships, possessions, identity, will change. Practice non-attachment, enjoy life's pleasures without clinging and pursue goals without tying your worth to outcomes. Craving is not a flaw, it's part of being human. The Buddha's teaching is not condemnation but liberation. By seeing craving as a temporary force, we can loosen its hold and find inner freedom. The second noble truth is a wake-up call, to recognize the patterns that bind us and begin the path to freedom. Craving is the fire within, but understanding is the water that cools the flame. Breaking free, the end of suffering. Imagine a life free from the constant push and pull of craving, the endless cycle of wanting, fearing, clinging, and avoiding. What if you could let go of the tight grip on life's outcomes and rest in profound peace? This is the promise of the third noble truth, the cessation of suffering, or nibbana. What is nibbana? Nibbana is not a mystical state or an escape from life's challenges. It's the freedom to face them without being consumed by them. It's the peace that arises when we let go of craving, tanha, and extinguish the fires of greed, hatred, and ignorance. The Buddha described nibbana as liberation from dualities, pleasure and pain, success and failure. In this state, the mind is unshaken by fleeting desires or fears, dwelling instead in unshakable contentment. Sophia, a loving mother, was consumed by worry about her children's futures. Her craving to control their choices strained her relationships and stole her peace. A friend's advice, trust them to find their own way, helped Sophia see that her love didn't need to be tied to control. By letting go, she found calm and a renewed connection with her children. Sophia's journey reflects the Buddha's teaching: suffering arises from craving, and peace comes from letting go. Steps to letting go: recognize the futility of clinging, holding on to impermanent things, relationships, achievements, or identities, only deepens suffering. Embrace impermanence. Life is dynamic, like a river. Peace comes when we flow with its changes instead of resisting them. Develop trust in life's flow. Trust means acting wisely and compassionately without needing to control every outcome. Practice non-attachment. Non-attachment isn't indifference, it's loving and striving without being bound by expectations. Nibbana, accessible to all. Nibbana isn't reserved for saints, it's a practical reality we can experience in everyday life. It starts in small moments: letting go of a grudge, accepting change, or realizing we don't need to control everything. Sophia's story shows that letting go is not giving up, it's freeing ourselves from craving and living with an open heart. The Buddha's teaching on nibbana isn't about escaping life's challenges but living fully within them. It's an invitation to leave behind the storm of craving and step into the calm of acceptance. When the fire of craving is extinguished, the heart rests in the cool shade of freedom. The path to freedom, the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha's teachings are like a lamp in the darkness, illuminating the way to freedom from suffering. Central to his teachings is the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide to living with mindfulness, ethics, and purpose. It's not a set of rigid rules but an invitation to align our actions with wisdom and cultivate lasting peace. The 3 pillars of the path. The Eightfold Path is divided into 3 interconnected sections. Ethics: seal a living in harmony with others through right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Concentration: samadhi, training the mind with right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Wisdom: prajna, seeing clearly through right view and right intention. Each pillar supports the others, forming a holistic path to liberation. Carl, a retired teacher, felt restless after years of structured work. Seeking clarity, he embraced the Noble Eightfold Path, integrating its teachings into his life. Ethics: Carl practiced right speech by avoiding gossip, right action by volunteering, and right livelihood by simplifying his lifestyle. Concentration: through mindfulness meditation, Carl cultivated right effort to replace negativity with positivity, right mindfulness to observe his emotions, and right concentration to find inner stillness. Wisdom, Carl adopted right view, letting go of past regrets and future fears. And right intention, committing to live with compassion and integrity. Over time, his restlessness transformed into peace and purpose. Practical steps to begin the path. Start small, focus on one area, like mindfulness, and expand gradually. Practice compassion. Ask yourself, am I speaking and acting with kindness? Align with values. Reflect on how your choices, work, words, and actions reflect your core principles. Cultivate awareness. Use mindfulness to observe thoughts and emotions, creating space to respond calmly. The Noble Eightfold Path isn't reserved for monks or scholars, it's a practical guide for anyone seeking peace and purpose. As Carl discovered, each small step brings us closer to freedom. The Buddha reminds us, as a lamp lights the way in darkness, so does this path lead to liberation. Walk it with courage, and freedom will follow. The Buddha's Journey, a timeless inspiration. The story of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, is not just an ancient tale, it's a reminder of the transformative potential within all of us. His journey from privilege to enlightenment shows that the path to awakening is one of struggle, balance, and self-discovery. Siddhartha's journey. Born into luxury, Siddhartha was shielded from life's hardships by his father, who sought to ensure his future as a king. Yet, despite his comfortable life, Siddhartha felt an inner emptiness. One day, venturing beyond the palace, he encountered the realities of aging, sickness, and death. He also saw a serene ascetic, sparking his determination to seek liberation from suffering. Renouncing his wealth and title, Siddhartha pursued extreme asceticism, pushing his body to its limits. Yet, enlightenment eluded him. The middle way. Sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, Siddhartha reflected on his life of extremes. He realized that peace lies in balance, not indulgence or deprivation. This insight, the middle way, revealed the path to freedom. Through deep meditation, Siddhartha awakened to profound truths: impermanence, interconnection, and the end of craving. As the Buddha, he spent the rest of his life sharing the path of wisdom and compassion. The relevance of Siddhartha's story. The Buddha's journey mirrors our own struggles. How often do we chase happiness in extremes, only to feel restless? Siddhartha's realization of the middle way reminds us that true peace comes from embracing life with balance and wisdom. His story shows that enlightenment isn't reserved for the extraordinary, it's the result of commitment and self-reflection. The Buddha's journey is a call to awaken our own potential. Like Siddhartha, we can face challenges with balance, seek wisdom, and cultivate compassion. His timeless words inspire us. You, too, can be a lamp unto yourself. Walk the path with courage, and you will find your way. The Buddha's story isn't just his, it's ours. The Buddha's teachings are not abstract, they are meant to be practiced in everyday life. Liberation from suffering doesn't require grand gestures but begins in the small, quiet moments of our routines. By embracing mindfulness, compassion, and intentionality, even the busiest days can become opportunities for peace and growth. Jessica's story, from stress to serenity. Jessica, a corporate professional, felt overwhelmed by endless deadlines and personal responsibilities. Anxiety robbed her of sleep, leaving her disconnected from what she loved. During a stressful meeting, she noticed her rapid, shallow breathing and remembered a colleague's suggestion to try mindfulness. She began with 5 minutes of breath awareness each morning, focusing on slow inhales and exhales. Gradually, Jessica added walking meditation during lunch and body scanning at night to release tension. These small practices helped her feel calmer and more present. Jessica also practiced compassion, writing forgiveness letters, performing random acts of kindness, and extending herself grace on tough days. Her relationships improved, and her sense of purpose deepened. What started as a simple experiment became a life-changing transformation. Mindfulness practices. Breath awareness. Spend 5 minutes each morning focusing on slow, deep breathing. Walking meditation. Pay attention to each step, the ground beneath your feet, and the sounds around you. Body scanning. Before bed, scan your body for tension and release it with your breath. Compassion practices. Random acts of kindness. Perform small, thoughtful gestures for others, like holding a door or leaving a kind note. Forgiveness exercises. Write a letter of forgiveness to let go of resentment, even if you don't send it. Self-compassion. Speak to yourself with kindness, especially when you make mistakes. Integrating liberation into daily life. These practices don't add to your to-do list, they transform how you approach the moments you already have. Whether stuck in traffic or enjoying a meal, mindfulness and compassion can turn ordinary moments into pathways to peace. Jessica's story shows that liberation doesn't require perfection, just small, consistent steps. Each mindful breath and act of kindness fills the jug of peace, one drop at a time. As the Buddha said, a jug is filled drop by drop. Likewise, a person becomes wise through small, mindful actions. The path to liberation is already here. Take the first step today. Universal connection through suffering. Suffering often feels isolating, yet the Buddha taught that it connects us all. Recognizing that every being experiences struggle opens the door to compassion, unity, and the realization that no one faces life alone. In a world grappling with environmental crises, inequality, and social unrest, this truth is more urgent than ever. By embracing our shared suffering, we can heal ourselves, others, and the planet. Anwar, a refugee who fled his war-torn homeland, faced profound loss. Yet, in a crowded camp, he chose hope over despair. He taught children using scraps of paper, reminding them, our minds are still free. Anwar's kindness inspired others. He shared rations, planted a communal garden, and helped neighbors. His actions turned the camp into a place of solidarity. Embodying the Buddha's teaching, shared suffering connects rather than isolates. Interdependence and shared humanity. The Buddha taught that all life is interconnected, like strands of a web. Our actions, big or small, affect the whole. Environmental crises, the air, water, and land connect us all. Caring for the planet is an act of compassion for every being. Inequality and social unrest, division perpetuates suffering. Recognizing our shared humanity fosters unity and healing. Compassion motivates action, not from pity, but from love. When we see another's pain as our own, we are moved to act with empathy and care. Anwar's story reminds us that suffering is not an obstacle but a bridge to connection. It teaches humility, empathy, and the power of coming together. As the Buddha said, all beings tremble at violence, all fear death. Seeing others as like yourself. Do not harm or cause harm. By acknowledging our universal connection, suffering becomes an opportunity for growth and unity. Whether through small acts of kindness, addressing inequality, or caring for the planet, each step creates a more compassionate world. The truth is simple, we are in this together. The pain that unites us can also transform us. Together, we can find a way forward. Embracing suffering as a teacher. As we conclude this journey through the first noble truth, we see that suffering, far from being a punishment or a curse, is one of life's greatest teachers. It invites us to look deeply, to question, and to grow. The Buddha's wisdom transforms our view of suffering, showing it not as an obstacle to avoid but as a doorway to understanding, compassion, and ultimately, freedom. Suffering is universal, touching every life. Yet, it is also profoundly personal, shaping our hearts and minds in ways that can lead to wisdom. The first noble truth encourages us to stop running from pain and instead sit with it, learn from it, and allow it to soften our hearts. Today, take one small step toward this transformation. Practice mindfulness during a moment of discomfort. Extend compassion to someone else's struggle. Reflect on impermanence and let go of something you've been clinging to. These small actions, taken consistently, can begin to transform the mud of suffering into the bloom of insight. As the Buddha taught, the lotus blooms not despite the mud, but because of it. Your suffering has meaning. Your journey has purpose. And within every challenge lies the seed of liberation. Let this be your invitation to step forward, with courage and an open heart, toward the light of understanding.